The Journey of a Trog by Trog. Introduction. My name is Trog. Trog has been a Trog for many years, and Trog has recently decided to make a book after becoming a hero, and this will be Trog's greatest work. Trog decided to write because Trog knew he wanted this before he went into a censor, if die possible. So enjoy my Trog biography. Chapter 1. Troglings are disciplined. Sometimes. Trog only remembers very few moments of his Trogling life. Trog remember when Papa sent me off to a Trog training camp called Cactail Spire. It was one of the tribes of Troglbesh's capital. Trog can remember that he has a training officer named Epripog. Epripog did not treat Trog too kindly at first, because Trog guessed Epripog wanted to make sure Trog was good enough and disciplined to stay in the army. Trog met this one Trogling one day. His name was Ofuktog. Ofuktog and Trog became pals very quickly. However, after a year or two, he was sent off to Trogltuck, and would one day become the chieftain. Trog remember one time the Kesh coming. He inspecting us and stayed for dinner. Trog and the other recruits thought we should play a prank on the Kesh. So when he was eating his humi, we placed a very spice, and soon enough, the Kesh was screaming his head off. Chapter 2. Going back home. A few weeks after the incident with the Kesh, Trog graduated with some other friends, like this one Trog, Larfog Ashfins. The only other Trog that was my friend in the army. We soon were shipped back to Groggymas, my home. The Kesh didn't like me too well after that, but Trog remember his aide, Troggle. The Katesh took a particular liking to Trog. Sadly, Trog remembered that my grandpa passed away while I was gone. He was the bestest Trog ever. He was said to have aided Huckboo as his head strategist during the siege of Groggymas. One day, Trog visited his grave, and Trog was all sad. Trog vowed to become as great as his grandpa, and to make a name for himself in the Troglbesh legions. Chapter 3. The first disappearance of the Kesh. One day, the Katesh starting screaming. The Katesh announced the Kesh had disappeared. Trog later learned that during this exact time, a new kingdom arose, an empire, Argonia. The Katesh fell into grief, as his father had been thought to be dead. The Katesh locked himself up in the temple, and we did not see him for another year. After the Katesh locked himself up, the Trogs had no choice but to lay low, of course. Trogs like Trog and Larfog would protect the villages. In the area, however, our only officer was Ofuktog, who had returned after Trogltuck had fell. Ofuktog prior to this became the chieftain, and brought a large mass of Trogs from Trogltuck. Trog remembered this one Kraken, even though they were outlaws. Trog thought, why was he still alive still, and living under the custody of Trogltuck? One day, Trog approached the Kraken. He claimed to be a UI variation. He said his name was Meshach Moray. He turned out to be my cousin. But a few months later, after persecution, he left Trogbesh and joined a pirate crew.